Hi everyone. So welcome to the event today. Just by a show of hands or thumbs up or anything on the chat, is there anyone that this is their first Lightning Talk session, or are we all has everyone been here before? Okay, we've got a thumbs up to say it's someone's first. Okay, great. Well, I hope you have a good time. I hope everyone does really enjoy it. I'm going to put a few words up at some point about who we are and what we do. I'm sure most of you know me now. I'm the founder of the LJC and run RecWorks, a recruitment company. I'm not going to talk for ages about what we do, but I'll put some details up in case you're interested. We can do a load of things around finding developers, but finding mentors as well, obviously getting you started speaking, and we've got a bunch of other things around aspiring CTOs. So yeah, I'll put a link down that you can read all about it. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first Lightning speaker. So Trish, if you're ready to go.
Yes, I am ready to go. I think so. All right, let's do it then. You're gonna have to prompt me when I run over time for sure. Share screen. Let's see. Right, can everybody see my slides? Okay, so I'm giving a presentation next week, Why Do Developers Love IntelliJ IDEA, on Thursday for IntelliJ IDEA Conf. One of the things I often do before I give a new talk is I do a first pass of it at a user group event. So when Helen said there were some slots today, I was like, oh, I haven't written my talk yet. I should sign up for that so that I get some of my talk written in time for Friday. So what I've been doing this week is, what I decided to do is write the hardest bit of my talk first, and that's what I want to demo to you today. So bearing in mind, this presentation is actually going to be a 45-minute presentation, and this lightning talk is a 5-minute presentation. So what I'm hoping to do is just give you like basically a 5-minute teaser of the thing which is the most difficult thing to demonstrate. And that is, my slide's not moving in the right direction. Flow, how IntelliJ IDEA promotes the state of flow. Now, I've been trying to demo this since before I started working at JetBrains. I've been working at JetBrains for 6 years now. And this is a really difficult thing to demonstrate, partly because actually to get into the state of flow takes like minutes, if not half an hour. So you can't really demo flow in 5 minutes. So anything I do to kind of demonstrate the state of flow as I'm programming inside IntelliJ IDEA is of course going to be either not very flowy or a little bit artificial because it's going to be a bit rehearsed. So that caveats aside, let's try and give it a go and talk about how we can try and get in a state of flow using IntelliJ IDEA when we're coding Java. To do this, we are going to do I've been working on this for a while, actually. This is a real pet project of mine, a Sudoku generator and solver project. So what I'm going to do is use a little bit of TDD to kind of help work on the generator for generating one of these Sudoku puzzles. I'm not going to go into what Sudoku is because I don't have time. So if you don't know what Sudoku is, tough, really. So in my class, what I'm going to do is I'm going to test drive this, do some TDD. So what I want to do is I want to implement the functionality which generates a Sudoku puzzle, and it has to have at least 17 items, which is a really good thing to test drive. So I'm going to use IntelliJ IDEA's live template. This is a new live template I've created because this is the sort of test structure I want when I create a JUnit 5 test. And I'm going to say should create a puzzle, can't type today, with at least 17 items. Okay, so I'm going to have a new generator. I'm going to use postfix completion because postfix completion is cool to create a variable for my generator. I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to use Hamcrest matches, matcher assert. Hopefully you're picking up some IntelliJ tips and tricks, like right at the bottom of the keyboard shortcuts I'm using, and I'm going to try and remember to talk about some of the features I'm using. So a matcher assert, hold on, can't remember what I'm doing now. Assert that. I want to assert that my generator creates a puzzle, get puzzle, oops, which I can't spell. Right, so what's wrong with this? I get IntelliJ IDEA to create this method. When you're doing test-driven development, or if you're coding outside in, this is quite a good way of getting IntelliJ to create the API. You code against the API that you want, and then get IntelliJ IDEA to create it for you. This is one of my favorite things about IntelliJ. So I'm going to create a method called getPuzzle, which is going to create me a grid because that's the thing that contains a puzzle. I just use IntelliJ to just make the bare minimum that gets this to pass. So I leave that as it is. And then what am I trying to do? With my puzzle, I want to see that the number of filled squares matches dot is greater than or equal to 17. That's my test. Okay, I'm just going to use IntelliJ to put some static imports to make my test a bit more readable. And then I'm going to run that. Doing test-driven development, so it should fail. What does it fail with? I've got a null pointer exception, and it even tells me, because I'm using enhanced null pointers from, I think it was Java 15, tells me finally, like what returns null. Generator getPuzzle returns null, so I'm just going to drill down into that. Of course it returns null. Let's use IntelliJ to create me. I'm going to use smart code completion to just automatically fill in the right type. And then I'm going to use rerun tests to rerun the failed tests. Great. So now I have a failing test, which is failing for the right reason. I've only got, I've got 0, not 17, because I haven't filled in anything there. Okay, well, let's create something. I don't want this created in here. I want this to be a field. Let's use refactoring to create a field. Let's put the initialization inside the constructor. Now I have one of these. What do I want to do? I want to fill it in with something. Again, smart code completion just gets me to fill in the basics, which is just going to work. And then I'm going to set some value in there. What I'm doing is I'm adding some value to my generated grid so that I can see the test fail for a slightly different reason. I'm going to run out of time in a second, I know that. So, and it doesn't fail for the right reason because it's still saying 0, not 11. So where is the other culprit? This method returns 0. So what I want to do, I have a test for this, obviously, because I'm doing test-driven development. I'm going to run this test. I will stop in a second, I promise. I'm going to run this test, which fails for all the right reasons. This is a JUnit 5 test, which puts in a bunch of different values. So it fails for all these different values, which is great. And now I'm going to use IntelliJ's live templates to complete this. This is a grid, it has a number of rows. So what I want to do is I want to iterate over all the rows. This is live templates. And then I'm going to iterate over all the cells in the rows. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to use complete current statement to create an if. So if the cell is not empty, I want to count it. So cell is empty. Again, postfix completion is not empty. Then I want to add it to the count. And then, so what I'm going to do is get IntelliJ to fix this, create local variable count. I want to return count, oops, which I can't spell. Oh my goodness, count. And IntelliJ goes, oh, I don't have one of those. So, right, put it in the right place so that, oh, for goodness sake, I'm doing it too fast. I need to bring int count into scope. So I just get IntelliJ to rework my code so that it works, get it to fix up any errors, and then rerun the test. And then everything passes. I'm going to wrap it up there because there's like way more I want to demo, but I don't want to demo all of that. The point is, so clearly 5 minutes is not enough time to show this. The point is that by using the IntelliJ IDEA features, I'm not thinking I'm explaining to you which features I'm using, but I'm not thinking which features am I using. I'm not thinking, how do I get this to compile? I'm not thinking, where do I move my code around to? I just say to IntelliJ, like, do you have a suggestion here which can help? For example, I think I can actually get, I'm not here. I want to be able to show the fact that you can actually sometimes turn these into stream operations if it's the right thing to do. I can't do that here for some reason, which is weird. I have another demo which will show that instead of using a for loop, I could use a while loop. So what you do is you think about the problem you're trying to solve, you write the bare minimum code, which is going to get you to the place which is going to solve that problem. And then you can like rework that code afterwards if it's not going to work the way that you want. For example, what I might want to do in my generator is, I mean, this sort of thing really shouldn't be in the constructor. So I might want to then do some refactoring, which say something like fill grid with random values, which I don't have time to demo. So you're not thinking about like the mechanics of writing the code. You're thinking about the problem you're trying to solve, and that is why IntelliJ IDEA helps to promote flow for Java developers.
Thank you very much, Trish. That was brave to try and go through all of that. I'm sure, Dom, you were taking careful notes there, and you now fully understand all about flow in IntelliJ IDEA. Honestly, as a non-developer, I'm sort of like I was following for the first few seconds and fell off. But yeah, no, it was yeah, amazing amount to get through. Does anyone have any questions at all for Trish on that?
Done silent. Look, honestly, any feedback that anyone has, just ping me or let Barry know the feedback, because I have time to iterate over this so that it's a more useful talk next week.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. Where can I find an invite for Trisha's talk talk next week? Yes, IntelliJ IdeaConf. Thank you. Brilliant. It's almost like I paid her to do that. So JetBrains, that's who me and Helen work for. JetBrains is hosting IntelliJ IdeaConf next week. It is a free event. It is on Thursday and Friday next week. We, Helen and I, and our colleagues Mala and Dalia are going to be hosting it, and it's 2 days worth of content all around IntelliJ IDEA, like, because it's 20 years old. So how did it come about? What does it do? Like, how does it work? And some tips and tricks for being effective with IntelliJ.
And Trish, was there any kind of specific feedback that you would like from people on that demo? Anything that would help you iterate that?
No, I mean, like anything is fine. You have to bear in mind that it will be a 45-minute presentation, not a 5-minute lightning talk. And the 45-minute presentation will include a bunch of other things. So this talk is going to actually be in 3 sections. The first section is going to be exploring each of those features individually first. And then the flow section, I won't have to explain what those features are, because I'll just be able to use them to say, and this is how you put it all together. So there's a little bit of context there for what that talk is going to look like.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
I'm hosting your talk, aren't I?
I believe you are hosting my talk. Thank you, Helen.
Oh, my life. Nobody give any hard questions.
Okay, thank you very much then, Trish. So next we have Razak. Raz, yeah, perfect. You're good. Well, whenever you're ready, I'll let you crack on then.
Yeah, I'm talking 5 minutes about Cassandra, a distributed big data database. So what Cassandra trying to solve is these 3 V's: volume, amount of data that is getting generated, velocity, speed at which we are generating the data, and the variety and different types of data, that different structured data that we are creating. So Cassandra, to answer these 3 V's, we cannot guarantee this by one single system. We have to have a multiple system which share the responsibility. So if you have a small data, it's not just about small data, it's the relational databases that we use to address has a more value to a consistency. So we give the factors like acid, atomic, being isolated, being consistent, being durable. These properties let us choose relational database, but this did not solve the 3 V's that we talk about. So that's why we have a big data solutions. There are different types here, which trying to solve this big data problem in a different way. Key value stores, graph stores, and document stores, and column store. The Cassandra, it comes under column store. But there is a problem. The problem is it's called CAP theorem, and only 2 among these 3 can be achieved by a distributed system. So consistency means all the users at any given point in time get the same result. But that's where the relational databases like MySQL, SQL servers choose consistency. But to scale and to answer those 3 V's, you need it to be distributed. That's why the partition tolerance factor, P factor, cannot be compromised. Now we can trade off between availability and consistency. The databases like MongoDB and Redis choose consistency. That's why they're on this side of this. And Cassandra chooses availability. That's why it's called base theorem. Basic is availability, and there will be soft state and eventual consistency. That means the data will give you a consistency, but after some time, not at every given point in time. To know Cassandra architecture, it's a complex architecture. To go it in a non-technical terms, what it organizes the nodes in a ring, and it shares the responsibility. Let's imagine there are 6 teams, A to F, and they have certain number of ranges tokens assigned to them. So any data that comes into the system, there is a person in each team called coordinator who takes the request, and there is a person called partitioner who starts to identify the data and map it to one among the token ranges, and each token range the node is responsible, and hand it over to those nodes and wait for the data to be replicated based on the replication factor, RF factor, that is configured while designing the database, while creating the database, and then returns this response. But the read and write happens based on the consistency levels that we set. That's set based on the read. So how many nodes you need to be confirm the data being stored. That's the consistency level. But there is a gossiper in each team. Every team has a gossiper who is doing the sharing of the data between all the nodes, because you need to handle the data failures or a node going down to be available all the time. You need data to be replicated in multiple systems. So the gossiper does that, and there is a snitch which helps the gossiper to identify which particular node should be going responsible for that particular data. Internally, it is a Java process, and in memory, in the RAM, or you can say it as a heap, and also in the disk of this machine. First, every read goes to the commit log. Every write happens in the commit log, and then to a main table, and then to storage once the. To go deeper to this, to understand from between the relational and the Cassandra, there is primary key in a relational database. The same primary key is made up of 2 things. One is partition key, where the partitioner identifies the partition key and identifies the node, and stores the data in main table in a sorted order of a column and key. So that's more of architecture. Where to use the Cassandra? Use it when you are taking the time series data, when you are handling the monitoring applications, and data is coming in a stream, and you can use it with a messaging system like Kafka to integrate the messaging functionality. You can use it with analytics like the Spring Spark, and bring the Cassandra with Spring Spark. So when not to use Cassandra, if you need a consistency is main factor, like banking systems, you don't go for Cassandra, and you need ACID properties, and you need ad hoc queries, and you cannot do a random query on Cassandra. It depends on how you design the system. Yeah, that's mostly about what I wanted to cover in 5 minutes for Cassandra.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Razak. Nice to see another technical talk. As I think we've got largely technical talks today. It's strange how differently sometimes events are more around learning and mentoring, and other times it's more technical. But again, a very a brave amount of information to get through there. Does anyone have any questions for Razak at all? Feel free just to unmute. I should be able to spot who you are if you do. Alex, yes.
Razak, you put OLAP squarely in small data. Do you have any explanation of why you think that?
I have suffered to improve a query performance in past in a relational database. Suppose you maintain an audit table in a relational database, and you combine multiple databases to bring a answer a query. So you will suffer on the time on that. So as long as it is a small data, and the query in a relational database is good enough. But if the data goes bigger, and the way it is, the data coming into a digital system, relational database cannot handle. So I would say it is suited for small data, and of course, ACID properties.
I think I understand. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Alex. And thanks, Razak. Really appreciate that. So Shiva, do we have Shiva out there? Yes, there you go. There you go.
I'm there. Hi. Yeah.
Are you ready to go?
Yeah. Unfortunately, the internet might be a problem, but hopefully, hopefully the internet will not give me any problem, and I should remember demo gods too.
Okay, I'll say something if it cuts for more than a few seconds, then I'll say something just to just so you know that we're struggling here.
Sure. Okay. Can you see my screen? Oh yeah, cool. Thanks a lot. Okay, so hi guys. This is Shivakumar, and you can call me Shiva. And I have 17 years experience in cloud DevOps and Java, basically Java, cloud, and DevOps. Okay, and my special thanks for Barry and Dom for having me here. This is my first talk, so so yeah. So thank you, Alex. So what the thing is, I've been working for various companies like Oracle and Motorola and Ericsson for their cloud transformation and the maybe pipelines or cloud native solutions. Today, I'm here to talk about a specific thing about an activity which got a very wide appreciation from architects and managers. So it's a org-wide artifact which I try to develop here. So what I'm talking about is it's about microservice chassis here. So let me take you a bit of a background of what is microservice chassis and why it needed. So before that, everyone knows what is a microservice latest buzzword. So the moment you talk about microservices, there are again a lot of frameworks which you need, which you can use to develop a microservice. And literally, if I assign a microservice project to a particular developer, it literally takes at least 2 weeks to come up with a project. Okay, to come up with some working project. So having said that, how do you cut down? How do you cut down the build-up time? So there are a lot of problems around here because the more the microservices, is more patterns and different variety. So how do you as an architect establish the standards which are required for an organization, or as a how do you as a project manager, how do you mobilize a team and quick start development and take the product to the market? Taking the product to the market is very much key, right? So to that effect, this microservice chassis is really a very interesting initiative which people are I think people are very much doing now. So let me tell you what a microservice chassis is. So these are the features of a microservice chassis. It's basically a pattern which a developer can pull up. So see, as a chassis, the name suggests it's a foundation, a springboard where people can just pull it out and start developing it along with it. But what it does not, so as naturally you can expect some code framework to be existing. So it may be a Spring Boot based application for an example. So but whatever it is, it's a well thought framework which an architect has thought about it. And not only it's not just a code base. Okay, it also comes with a tools which is helped which people can use it to develop it. It comes with a set of predefined patterns or formats. Let's, for example, messaging format, which is accepted by that particular organization. So it's about how do you generate images? What are the labels to be attached to the images? So all such of thought, all school of thoughts, or all the scroll can be pulled in and put into a microservice chassis. Okay, so let me tell you what its features. So I'm just drilling down a bit further. What is a microservice chassis is? So this is the microservice chassis, how it features. So it comes with a microservice. So either you can think about a Spring Boot application. Okay, then it comes attached with this microservice security along with it. Then you can, as an architect, hey, I want logging like this. Everyone should follow the logging like this. So you can go and implement a particular feature. So once implemented, the same thing can be reused across all the organizations. All the teams in the same organization. So this pattern, so how it gains importance is it's one set, so people can start reusing, and also it doesn't it gives room for more addition to it. So what are we doing is we are giving flexibility for the developers to implement their own services, yet set their mind to set of standards which required by the whole organizations. That's a whole thought around this thing. So as you can see on the right side, it also comes with pipelines. So we implement in our organization, we implement as a Jenkins pipeline. So Jenkins pipelines, and it came with the tools which as images, as a Docker images, which helped us to set up the Jenkins on okay, given a Jenkins master, it could hook up this Jenkins to that master automatically. So the Jenkins file is ready. It's the whole pipelines will be ready the moment you start your developing. So everything is ready. Okay, so you can just imagine, yeah, you take the project and you can start developing it from the day one. Okay, so I'll just go further. So how do each developer came out taking such a microservice chassis? It's all started about with a wizard, yeah, which asks set of questions, which people answered. Like say, what's your team name? What's your Git repository, and what's your needs? It asks set of questions. Okay, when you ask set of questions, it created a set of a project. It configured a project for you, and it generated the project for you. It's much like your archetype. So if you are very much familiar with Maven archetype, so this is much goes hand in hand with that. Okay, now and I can show you a typical microservice chassis, but since due to my copyright reasons, I could not pull out much of the code. But I definitely want to show you how a microservice chassis would look like if I just quite independent. I don't want to. I'll just quickly show that. Oops, I'm just showing the screen. Yeah, it's a bit slow here. Pardon me for that. Can please let me confirm whether you can see my screen.
Can see your screen and just a password screen. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
I got it all.
Okay, so the code I'm showing you is a product of that wizard which I showed in the earlier slide. So it asks me sort of question. Okay, what my microservice is, and what are its endpoints would be, say, and it has generated this code for me. So as you can see, it is a Spring Boot based application. So you can just start you can just start adding the APIs. So it comes with a Docker file, which you can use to generate the image, and it comes with a see, today's it's de facto standard for deployment is Kubernetes. So definitely, it's not a harm to give a chart, Helm chart. I hope you are familiar with Helm chart. Helm chart is a way you deploy your you deploy or manage your deployments onto the Kubernetes as a it's like a package manager for Kubernetes. So the microservice chassis also would give you a set of chart, so which will help you to compile the project, generate an image, and deploy onto the Kubernetes. So with all these things, you can imagine by just adding an endpoint, you can immediately deploy onto the Kubernetes. Okay, so unfortunately, this is just a dummy project, so I cannot show you in working. So because it is a work of 1 year, so I could not pull out. Definitely, it's a copyright issue. And but what I'm trying to say here is, if you have such a micro chassis set up at the org level, it will be really great. And I can just list on what are all the benefits of having such a thing. So it's quick for developers to springboard development of microservices. It is for the project manager to ideate. So if he gets an idea, okay, this is how the microservice should look like and how it should perform, then you can really take this chassis and do some changes and really take to the market. It's for the testing part, and it's for the architect to mandate the org-wide patterns and how it should be built, tested, and deployed. So this is what I had to say. Any questions? I can just stop by.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Shiva. Really appreciate that. Does anyone have any questions there for Shiva on microservices or any other part there? Alex, yes, got Alex again.
Hey, Shiv.
Sure.
I hope that's all right, shortening your name that way. If you use like a service mesh for on top of Kubernetes, is that kind of like a chassis, or is that different in some way?
Yeah, sure. It's like a chassis. It's like another archetype for a chassis. So for in our organization, what we did is service mesh as comes as a deployment idea. Deployment. So I told about chart, right? The Helm chart. So we had the service mesh. So we didn't use service mesh as such because it was under POC. But we used a gateway. Definitely used a gateway, and that was part of the whole Helm chart.
So mostly you're telling me that the chassis helps at build time, at develop time.
Yes, that's
Whereas
basically
what I was thinking of is more of a runtime thing.
exactly.
The service mesh. Cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Shiva. Appreciate that. One thing I haven't said yet, and I meant to say, is about the feedback. So please do give feedback generously. Really appreciate. I think we've had a few responses. Yeah, I can see them coming through thick and fast now. So yeah, Carly, I've seen Carly's given some. If you don't mind, if you're happy to just let us know, especially for people that are just getting started as a speaker. If you've taught them something, if they've taught you something, something you want to know, anything that's impacting them, anything in particular that they liked, it is amazing the impact feedback can give on when you first get started speaking. I know from memory, it's so nerve-wracking, and you can think all these different things. And so when somebody says, "Oh, that really helped," or "This part was really good," or "Enjoyed the way you put that," it can really make a difference. So any feedback that you've got, anything specific, please do put it on. And Dom has, I think, put a link to the form.
Thanks, Barry.
Yeah, all good. Thanks, Shiva, and thanks, Alex, for that. So moving on next, I think it's Alex. So passing the baton there, whenever you're ready.
Can people see my screen? Nice white screen, data roles in Java.
Yeah,
Yep.
Alex. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. So I'm Alex McLintock. I help companies build what I call a data insight service. I suspect that Razak probably thinks of it as big data and stuff like that, which is another thing, but I try not to specify everything in technical terms. And so this talk was planned last time as a 5-minute filler, originally just about data roles. And I thought, well, how about I try and talk about data roles, but with respect to Java, since this is the London Java community. As you can probably tell, I'm committing one of the first and most important mistakes in PowerPoint presentations, that my slides shouldn't be more interesting than what I'm saying. And so this talk will be full of animation, so please don't tell me off for that. The other thing is that I've actually got tons of stuff in my slides. Don't worry, you don't have to read it all. I'll try and talk over it, and hopefully it'll all gel together. So what am I talking about now? My question for, I think, Razak was basically, because I start off talking about the difference between OLTP, that's typical CRUD type databases where you're inserting, updating and deleting, and OLAP databases, which typically have bulk inserts, very few updates, very few deletes, large aggregating reads. And it's these OLAPs type databases that are typically used for analytics. Data warehouses are the most common old style version of OLAP, and I definitely agree data warehouses are definitely small data, but not all OLAP databases are small data. But that's what bunch of lightning talks would you have if everybody agreed with everybody else? So what's the group of people that we're talking about? Some people say there's 3 teams. I say there's 4. The first and perhaps most important is the data engineering team. These are the people who do most of the programming, and fundamentally they get data from one place to another. Data scientists are the people who do the maths. They are typically doing statistics. Operations, these are the people who are running the live software, making sure that that nothing goes wrong. Business information people typically do reports, and there's a certain amount of overlap as well. So here, this wonderful 4-set Venn diagram has got a bunch of overlaps. On the left, you've got the data engineering and operations. That's typically doing things in a DevOps style. In the middle at the top, you've got data engineers who do a tiny bit of data science, and they like to think that they understand the maths. And on the right, you've got a certain amount of business people who do reports, who understand a bit of the maths and can do some of the data science. In the middle, you've got people like me who like to think that they can do everything. Okay, so what's the some of the jobs involved? I'm going to run out of time, no end. So database administrators, they're a dying breed. They used to be just relational databases, but there's a whole bunch of other newer databases, including Cassandra, that are more difficult to run. Sometimes they actually require Java knowledge in terms of running stuff on a JVM, but no Java programming. Of course, all of these things you can actually write Java clients for. So what else is there? Data architects. Data architects do two main things. They typically design the structure of the data. So they might come up with DDL, they might decide what sort of tables you want. And they may also be involved in designing the infrastructure for the data. They also may be the link to the business, talking about data products and data infrastructure. Do they require any Java? Not really. So eventually I'll get around to some Java. Data engineers, they definitely are involved in Java. They don't always use it. Fundamentally, what they do is that they build pipelines of data from one data store to another data store. Sometimes it's the same thing. And they do a bit of transformation in the middle. So these data engineers typically work in two styles. They may work in batch mode, where you have a single program that gets run through a cron or some scheduling thing. And historically, that was done in MapReduce, which was almost entirely in Java. I don't know of any non-Java MapReduce. Nowadays, Spark is very popular, and that can be done in Python, Scala, or Java, or a number of other languages. And sometimes it's still done in SQL. The important thing to realize here is that these data engineers are using proper software engineering techniques, version control, test-driven development, DevOps, and all those sorts of things. There's lots to do with streaming, so responding to events as they happen, but we'll leave that for another time. ETL engineers are a special form of data engineer that just basically take data from one data source to another. Data warehouse engineers are basically an older style of relational database administrator, but they're designing small data type structures, and they are trying to design databases that respond well to a particular type of analytical query. And they're typically tied to a particular manufacturer, software retailer. Platform engineers. So you remember on the sets, the 4 sets, we had an overlap between data engineers and operations people. Platform engineers are typically the data engineers who work on the infrastructure. They're not necessarily tied to doing individual data products. They more help all the teams. And so we come to the people who think they're the most important ones around, the data scientists. They quite often come from an academic background. They love to think of themselves as the heroes, the superheroes of this story. But in reality, data scientists are quite often the ones who clean the data, and that takes up most of their job. I would have told you that data scientists mostly program in Python and R and don't use Java at all. However, apparently I'd be wrong in that, because I'm told that Java was the 3rd most popular language for data scientists last year. As I said before, not their fundamental skill is their mathematical understanding, not necessarily their programming skills, but we shall see. And I've actually managed to stay within 7 minutes. Excellent. This is me. I'm Alex McLintock. Find me on LinkedIn, or if you have any questions, give me a shout any way you like, through Barry and Dom, and feedback welcome. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Alex. Literally, the first thing when I saw the animation at the beginning was, okay, this is interesting, and then you quoted it, straight away. I don't think, Dom, how many of these have we done? Is this 21, 22, something like that?
22.
Yeah, first time I've seen anything like that.
I love the slides. I thought they were great.
I did. I thought it was interesting watching. Is that Doodly, the little
It is,
hand?
yes.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting watching the little hand.
There's probably a wave whereby, you know, for a year or 2 or 3, Doodly will still be interesting and new, and then so like in 3 or 4 years time, it's like, oh, not another Doodly video, and get all sick of it. But I've got a plan for doing some YouTube videos. So this seems to have worked out okay. I obviously couldn't get the timing right. There was a lot more I wanted to say, and
I imagine, yeah, you have to talk really quickly. You can't slow the hand down, right?
I mean, this was based on a blog. The blog was written down, so
yeah, it's great.
Figure out what to try and shop out.
I thought it worked really well. So yeah, very interesting approach. Any questions on any of the?
I have one.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. After you, Anderson.
Okay, thank you. So, Alex, in your there are so many roles, and yeah, it was a great presentation for me because I've been reading about them, and sometimes I think that some of them overlap, because I doubt that every company they have budget to hire each one of them. But anyways, what I wanted to ask you is, for people who are from any field like that's not data, and they want to pivot their career, they are looking to get into data. From what you've seen, what is the role that's more common for people who are coming from other areas to start with data?
Unfortunately, I can't answer that. I'm quite happy to go through the thinking process, that the flow chart that I would imagine. That was part of my point of writing the article in the first place. I would say don't do data science unless you love maths. If you are an academic who thinks maths is great fun, then go for data science. If you are a software engineer, but you're okay with the idea of taking data from one place, transforming it and putting it in another place and doing that reliably, then maybe data engineering is for you. If you just like running computers, then the skills required to run something like Cassandra or these big data systems, that kind of operations is more exciting than just running a single machine piece of software. And I think there's still a market for that, but you're not necessarily going to write any software in that. But having said all of that, this talk was originally aimed at management, not necessarily technical people. And so there's still a lot of work to do with working with the business. I didn't mention visualization at all, really, you know, doing pretty graphs, telling the story, and things like that. I better shut up because otherwise the next person won't.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, Shiva, with your question, do you mind asking that directly over chat or following up afterwards, just so we can keep to time?
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'll directly connect with him. Thanks
for coming
Alex.
forward with a question. And Alex, I think you've got a few requests in there to maybe build that into something a bit longer, so we can talk to you about that afterwards.
Do I need to unshare my desktop or?
Yes, please. Yeah, if you can. And so we have Pawel Badenski. Are you there, Pawel? Can I see you? Yes,
sir.
Bro. So whenever you're ready, then feel free to crack on.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Can everybody see my empty text mate?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, so I sort of, this talk is going to be an opportunity for me to flesh out an idea I've been thinking about for a while. And I have learned very recently, a few days ago, that I am what is known as external processor, which means I best process my thoughts when I talk about them, which is a nightmare for my wife, unfortunately. So let me get cracking on. My inspiration in software a lot of the time is Kent Beck, and what Kent Beck does is takes very simple ideas and revisits them over and over again, and gives a lot of value out of it. So I wanted to talk about coupling today, and I actually before that talk went on to people and asked about what coupling is, because I was curious on how what do people think first when you ask about coupling, specifically coupling in code. And the answers I got were largely across the line of it's where it's difficult to change things. It's when it's difficult to change things.
Sorry, Pavel. Are we supposed to see what you are typing?
Oh, you can't?
No.
Oh, shoot. Sorry, 1 second. Is it here?
Yeah, we can see now.
So coupling in code is when it's, thank you so much, when it's difficult to change things. And also when I was browsing the web, I saw that a lot of coupling articles and the coupling blogs and conversation about this concept were about change. And it's quite interesting to me because we have another wisdom in code practices when we say we write code once, but we read it. Let's say that's what the number is. And so it was quite interesting to me, the kind of disconnect between people discussing concepts of complexity, coupling, cohesion. Interesting, all these things start with C. I don't know if there's some sort of conspiracy there, which starts with C again, no pun intended. And so I started thinking, okay, so how does coupling connect to understanding code and communicating in code? So there's something about which we don't talk enough about is how junior and senior people, and as we get more experience, people read code. So junior read code line by line, and they often analyze algorithms in a more linear fashion. But seniors, and as you get more experience, you start skimming the code. So senior people skim the code in search of patterns. And what those patterns I sometimes refer to as cognitive cues. So you search for the code and you kind of, you know what filter method looks like when you operate on an array, because you know how, the code is indented and where the if is. And when you look at that array looping, you immediately know, okay, somebody's filtering. Now there's higher levels cognitive cues as well, and they connect to coupling. So I am predominantly these days JavaScript programmer, although I have a lot of experience in Java. So I'm going to talk in terms of functions. So no object orientation here. So let's take this function full name. So there's many ways I could write this function. I'm going to give a few examples and talk about this. So I could say full name customer, or I could say, okay, I'd like to get a full name and I'm going to pass in a name. Or I could say, okay, I want a full name and I'm going to first name and the last name. So these obviously all will do the job, but they have different level of abstraction and different level of coupling to other concepts. So now what about cognitive cues? If I look at the first line, I would be saying, what is going on here? Why is somebody passing a customer to get a full name? Something funny is going on here. Like, what is really going on here? Do they really intend that, or are they doing some kind of tricky business in there without even looking at the implementation? Now, the second two methods, they're kind of what we call the right up level of abstraction. If you look at them, you kind of know, okay, at least they're not doing any funny business. But the challenge with the last method is it's extremely well testable. The challenge here is, I think, that you might not be leveraging coupling to the extent that you could if you wanted to. So again, it's a decision, everything depends. But if at some point we change the definition of name and we say name was a first name and a last name, and we wanted to add a middle name, the second signature, which takes name, would actually allow us to search for the code where the name is used and allow us to see what code that is coupled to the concept of name might be requiring change, something that you won't get in the third example. Also, another thing that you will not get in the third example is you will not know what those strings are. So you have, because you haven't coupled to the concept, you kind of expanded the problem space, because string can be anything. So what are those strings? Okay, so I think I'm kind of getting to the end of my 5 minutes. So this is one example of the cognitive cues. There's many more of them. I just wanted kind of to bring the
the idea of cognitive cues and coupling. And two things I notice here is what else can coupling offer. So coupling can offer a lot of to us in terms of understanding the code and communicating through code and not only change. So one thing coupling offers is cognitive cues, which more experienced programmers rely on heavily. And another thing, coupling allows us to protect from change, as we've seen with the name example and the string example. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Pawel. Thank you very much. Wow, another very interesting approach to a presentation. It's so interesting to have like with Alex and yourself to complete the two things I've never seen before. So that's great. What was it you said you were? You started off by saying you are. Was it an external processor?
Yes, external processor. That's what I was told.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I might be a little bit guilty of that as well. Look, I can even look at Dom's face. That's just rude. Okay, does anyone have any questions at all for Pawel on the talk?
Yeah, a very interesting question, very interesting topic. Wonderful. Every developers go through this. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Shiva, and thank you, Pawel. Well, yeah, so thank you very much. That brings us to the end of our presentations. So we did actually have another talk lined up because one of them came through at the end, and it wasn't a talk as much as a Q&A, a lightning Q&A. And so Helen very generously offered to be on the receiving end of a bunch of questions. Helen's someone that has been involved in the lightning talks for, since the beginning, pretty much.
7 months.
7 months. 7 months.
Yeah.
Was introduced to us at the beginning by, sorry about the noise in the background, by the way, but was introduced to us by Trisha, and has kind of taken a series of steps towards becoming a speaker. So Dom and I thought it would be nice to have a chat and yeah, ask a few questions. So if you only came for the lightning talks, then you're free to go. The lightning talks are all done. You should have the links there. But if you're interested, if you're potentially interested in becoming a speak yourself, sorry, I've got a lot of very distracting things happening just here. But if you're potentially interested in becoming a speaker yourself, you want to know what it's like, you want to hear from somebody that's been through it all, then yeah, we're here to ask some questions. So I'm going to hand over to Dom, shut the window, and hopefully concentrate a bit better. But Dom, have you got some questions for Helen there?
I have. Just give me 2 seconds to find them again. I thought when you started talking that you were just going to do it. I was like, oh, nice, sit back, relax. Perfect. But no. Okay.
Well, Helen, maybe you could start by just giving us a quick sort of 30-second overview of why you got involved, why you gave your first talk, and work back from there.
So my very first talk was actually, it was even before the LJC. It was a brown bag that I did with my colleagues. This is obviously pre-lockdown. This is like year before last now. And I found it really, really scary. Like I had all the full-on nerves and I was terrified. And then I changed jobs towards the end of 2020. Yes, 2020. And I needed to get better at public speaking as part of that job because I'm now a developer advocate. Part of that is public speaking. So it's an element of I wanted to get better at it and my boss told me to get better at it. And then, you know, there is this, or these lightning talks that I can attend and practice and improve. So, yeah.
So 7 months ago, you just started aspiring speakers, coming to the lightning talks. Where are you? Where would you say you are now on your journey?
Good question. I'm not sure where the journey starts and where the journey finishes. I have learned a hell of a lot of where I started and where I am now. I'm quite sure there is a lot of learning to be done moving forward, because you know you never stop evolving. I think for me, I know I've done a lot of lightning talks, which is your fault, Dom. I've done some full-length talks, which I have really enjoyed. And for anybody out there, if you've done a lightning talk, a full-length talk is so much easier because you have time for your nerves to settle, you have time to find your beat, you have time to find the pacing, you can adjust the talk as you go based on your practice sessions. So honestly, if you've done a lightning talk, you're golden. What was the question? Where am I on my journey? So some of the things I've learned are how to get better at being authentic. So one of the kind of stressors that I had was being a developer advocate. How can I do that and be authentic? And I've come to the conclusion of how I can do that. So for me, it's around new developers, because I'm returning to Java. So I'm skilling up so I can help other people on that journey, because something I've learned is you can't create any content. Well, you can, but content that you create, whether it's speaking or blogging or podcasts or whatever, if you're not authentic with it, and if it's not relevant to you and your journey, it's not going to land. So I've learned a lot about authenticity, and yeah, I think my next goal in terms of getting on the journey will be when the world opens up again, and see if my legs will walk me to a stage rather than just sit in this little room and talk to the webcam. That'll be my next step.
I think you'll smash it. I've got no worries.
Or I'll just be in the ladies just going, no. I don't know which.
Trisha will push you out. She'll get you on the stage.
Are you looking forward to it, Helen? Are you looking forward to that step?
I am, because I get, you get the adrenaline, and, I don't know the full psychology around this, but basically your brain can't tell the difference. So you can take the adrenaline as excitement or nerves. Your brain's just like, here's a ton of adrenaline. It's up to you what you do with it. Again, with a longer talk, the adrenaline settles, whereas a lightning talk, it's more of a hit. You're there and it's very intense. So I am looking forward to it. I am worried about the nerves, but I am finding the more talks I do, the better I get at managing the nerves. The nerves don't change, but I get better at managing them. And that's quite an important distinction for me to realise.
Can I take you back to something you said about giving a full-length talk as opposed to giving a lightning talk? Like, how do you do that? Yeah. So you've given a 5-minute talk, people are like, oh, I love this, I want to hear a longer version. What do you do?
Close the laptop. Walk away, get a pen and paper. Just certainly what I did was I got all the concepts that I'd rammed into my 5-minute lightning talk, and then I just started to spider diagram them, and I was like, okay, which ones am I most passionate about, which ones are going to be most interesting for the audience to hear about, and which ones can I tell stories around, because we thrive on stories. That's how the human brain works. So once I kind of had them and I built out a skeletal presentation, then throw it in some slides. I'm a big fan of not fancy slides, probably because I'm a bit crap at them. I just put a bit of text on the screen. That's my forte. If you're amazing, and we've seen some amazing slides today, FYI, if that's your strength, brilliant. Unfortunately, it's not mine. So whatever your strength is, use that to your advantage, and then create your deck, and obviously practice, which is the only thing that is harder with a longer presentation, because the dry runs obviously take longer.
Oh God, yeah. I was thinking when I gave my lightning talk, I probably practiced it for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'd be gone for weeks if I did that with a full length.
Yeah, you do have to do a lot of practice, but it's worth it. The practice. I know there are some people who can say, oh, I can just wing it and get on stage. Again, I'm not one of them. I do put a lot of time and effort into practicing them. I don't think I over practice, and I try not to practice within 2 hours of giving the talk, mostly because I'm hoping one day I can get on a flight and walk up to a stage, and then I'm not going to have that luxury. So I don't want to condition myself to needing that. Yeah,
that's really good advice. So in the 7 month, I know I've seen you at a lot of the Q&A sessions, and obviously I know Trisha, experienced speaker, someone who's mentoring you. So what would you say are the top 2-3 things you've learned from like Trisha or one of the mentors that you've met at the Q&As?
Okay, first one would be from Venkat. It's not about you. It's just not about you, and it's not about me. It's about your content. And I recently this formed part of a talk that I did recently. People come, especially when you're doing a lightning talk, people come to the lightning talk because they are a new speaker themselves, or they want to spot other new speakers, or they are aspiring to give a talk in the future. Most people don't come to lightning talks to see certain speakers, unless your name is Trisha G, in which case maybe they do. But when you ultimately, over time, as you build up that authenticity and people know what you talk about, people might well come to a talk because it's you. But certainly to start with, they don't. You have to, what he said to me was on your first slide, don't have a ton of information about you. It's focus on your content first and foremost. By all means, have your Twitter handle and stuff, which again, most people here did today. But you know, don't overload people because they don't know you and maybe they don't care. The one that certainly Trisha has helped me a lot with is my authenticity. Mag, I don't know if she's on the call today as well. Mag's really helped me with authenticity as well and understanding that. And also Sam, who again, I don't think I've seen on the call today, but people that I now mentor and work with have really helped me because I get to see a different part of myself that I wouldn't normally see and I wouldn't normally work with. So things like doing her 30-day speaking challenge has been really helpful for me as well. So just networking, just meeting people.
Okay, and I think I've got time for one more question, which is, what are some of the myths that you had about public speaking before you got started? Because mine was, I thought everyone had to be the perfect speaker and deliver the perfect talk. And obviously that's not true. So I just wondered.
It's not true. It's not true. And it's interesting the number of speakers who actually hid their nerves because they thought that it was better just hide their nerves and pretend like everything's fine when you get on stage and you know, you're not that nervous. It's wrong. You'll be horrifically nervous. Myths. Only extroverts can do it. I don't think I'm ambivert. That's the middle of the scale, isn't it? I think I'm roughly around there. I'm not particularly extroverted. I'm not particularly introverted. Anybody can give a talk, whatever, wherever on that scale you see yourself. Only experienced people can do it. That's such a load of something. Everybody you can always give a talk based on your experience. It doesn't matter where on the scale your experience is. Whether you're first starting out, great, other people are first starting out. Whether you're super experienced, great, other people are super experienced. It doesn't matter. Just give a talk on your experience. And the other thing I would say is you don't need to do several lightning talks before moving on. You just need to throw yourself out there. And I know I absolutely own, I have done quite a few lightning talks, but that is because when there is a slot and I get a ping and I normally, oh God, I can't believe I'm saying this. I normally say yes. And the reason I say yes is because it is such an incredible opportunity and I don't want to turn it down because I want to progress my career and my skill set and my learning as quickly as I can. So take the opportunity, grab the opportunity and, you know, and deliver it even when it's the Thursday before the lightning talk on the Friday, Dom. Because I learned a lot from doing that. It was incredibly stressful. It even affected my sleep, but I learned so much from it and I have absolutely no regrets about doing it. So,
I mean, that's really good because I don't feel guilty for asking you all the time because I know you love it. So it's fine.
Damn it.
Yeah, no, it's so good.
Harry asked me to do this talk with 5 minutes notice last time.
They're good at that, aren't they?
Notice.
I know, right? It's such a great opportunity. And, you know, like Alex, unless I'm absolutely slammed with work, I will always try and, you know, give a talk or give a Q&A or support it because this community has been incredibly beneficial for me in my career. So I will always do what I can to give back in that respect.
Nice. And just coming in on that, Alex, yeah, sorry about that, by the way. But I will say, so we interview, we interview loads of people, keynote speakers, like we've had Trish on and loads of other people. And almost everyone was pushed, had a bit of an arm twist, encouraged, like really strongly encouraged 100%. To get involved. And, you know, begrudgingly we're like, oh, all right, you know, I may as well do it. And you know, we've spoken to all these people that have just had the most ridiculous careers that they attribute largely to their building a profile. And if you look back, it was because somebody, you know, a manager or a mentor or an irritating recruiter made them get started. And we keep doing it. But we always accept no for an answer, don't we, Dom? Eventually.
I mean, yeah, we'll keep asking you and you can keep saying no. It's fine. But
we'll just keep coming back.
We'll just keep asking.
I tell you, the one thing I love that you said, Helen, or rather the thing that I love the most that you said is this getting out of the way, or getting yourself out of the way. I think you said it in your delivering content presentation, and I never went back to say that one thing, but that has, even though we've spoken to all these different people, interviewed like loads of different people and so much advice, that I think that is one of the best things that I've heard, because so much, there's all this talk these days about you have to be a thought leader, and I don't want to be a thought leader. I don't see myself as a potential. It's just not for me. Like it's not about, you know, being the center of it. But at the same time, I kind of feel like I've got a lot of information I've learned from other people that I'd quite like to share. And as long as I can make it, okay, perfect. I don't have to be like, hey, everyone, look how good I am. And that at the beginning, it makes it so much more easier. You know, the psychological safety side of it is just, I can just be here and just share stuff and
it's
be
just
like,
content. It's
content.
not you.
Yeah, I love that. Content. I think that's great.
Can I ask one more question? Sorry,
really
I know we're running out of time.
Go.
On the content thing, I know now you've got your website, you write a blog, and you've been doing podcasts. Has public speaking helped you with those things, or have they helped you with public speaking, or is it all?
I don't know if I think it's probably a bit of a circular dependency. It's all about building my confidence, and again, I come back to it, the authenticity, and I keep coming back to authenticity because genuinely I've only really cracked that nut in the last month, I would say. It's actually been quite a recent thing because I've been stressing of how can I possibly, you know, do X, Y, and Z, and how can I give a technical talk, and how can I do this? And actually, I can give a technical talk on Spring fundamentals, and I'm going to learn it, and I'm going to skill up, and I'm going to give a technical talk on it. There you go. I've committed to it. So I'm just to see if Dom is taking notes, if she harasses me about that in a couple of months. You know, it's about what you can be authentic with, and the number of places that you can kind of put yourself out there, because you're not going to be perfect. Like, there's definitely one podcast I've done recently that I am dreading being released because I think I was pretty crap. But you know what? You live and learn, you move on, you just put some content out there, and you know, I wasn't, as long as you're not rude or offensive or anything like that, then don't worry about it. Just try and learn and practice and improve. You're not going to be a Trisha G straight out of the gates. She wasn't, she won't mind saying. So, you know, just practice, and that's all I'm doing. As long as I learn and I get better and I improve, then I'm happy.
Amen. All just steps on a ladder. Yeah. Oh, amazing. Exactly. Thank you so much, Helen, for speaking, and obviously Dom with the questions.
Thank you for having me.
So, big question: who is on the call now that hasn't spoken, but that might maybe be tempted to do it at one point in the future? Maybe a thumbs up, maybe, or a shake, or I've got my eyes on Tom Calls there, just waiting to see if he's.
Oh, come on, Tom.
I'm not seeing anything yet.
It's fine. I'll do it. I've spoken before, but I've not spoken at this meetup. Perfect. So. When's the next time?
We got one.
We got one. Today.
Amazing.
2 weeks of a holiday. That's perfect. I'm in.
No, yes. You can't have a holiday. No one has holidays at the moment.
21 people on the call are witnesses to that. Tom is speaking at the next one.
Well, anyone else? We usually get one or two afterwards that that come forward. So if anyone's interested, Tom, don't worry. If you can't make that day or whatever, then you know we can always keep talking. But if anybody's interested,
they'll hold you to it.
If anyone's open to coming and getting involved, then please do let us know. So yeah, thank you once again to all our speakers of today and our audience for being here, and we will see you next time.